welcome to the show. Thank you for having you here. And I know your time is really, really busy because most of the time is spent on the road. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you was because you have a very unique video or podcast series that you have helping entrepreneurs doing business in the U.S. And that sounds very, how can I say, it sounds very easy to put, but elaborate a little more on that. Because I know it's not easy to do business in the U.S.
No, it's not. So we first started helping Mexican people, Latin American business owners. Everybody dreams to sell their products in the U.S. But the thing is that nobody really knows how to do it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of successful companies, for example, here, across the street in Mexico. And they want to come and copy whatever they did 10, 15, 35 years, I don't know, ago in Mexico. They say, well, we grow like this, we are very successful here, I want to go and do it in, I don't know, San Antonio, Dallas, whatever you want. And the truth is that very possible they're going to fail because there's a big barrier, not only in the language, but also the business culture. So we have close to 20 years here in Houston, in Texas. And when we started bringing little by little, small amounts from different manufacturers. And what we realized is this. So adapting the offer to the American companies or to the American audience, it's huge. So little by little, you discover routes, and the idea is that this knowledge, this experience, we want to share it, we want to help.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, I mean, obviously you launched this series with that specific thought in mind, right? You want to help foreign entrepreneurs doing business in the U.S., kind of like you mentioned. People think, well, I've always done it this way, it's going to work over here too. And obviously when you get here, they realize that it's not the way it works. You know, you're not going to show us, the market is going to tell you what to do. And that's very, very important. And one of the things that I saw in your show that I thought was really interesting, my favorite part of it, I believe, you have different segments where you're giving advice and you bring on guests, but the one I thought was very unique because I've never seen it done. I've seen comedians in cars getting coffee, I've seen Shark Tank, I've seen carpool karaoke, but I've never seen anyone doing Zooming in the car while you're doing guests and taking questions from fans. That was wild. When I saw that, I was like, what? How is he doing that? Obviously, you're driving in long stretches of road, so it's safe for you.
Yeah.
But where did you come up with that idea? And I guess, tell me more what type of guests you have on that type of segment of your show.
We commute many hours in our lives, right? Either going to work, coming back, or when you have a business trip or whatever. A lot of times we drive a good couple of hours here and there. And I don't know if it happens to you, but that time that you have by yourself, a lot of ideas come. Because you're not in the office, you're not receiving calls, you're not doing this and this, you're by yourself a lot of times while we are driving, and a lot of things come to your mind. So sometimes it's like, oh, I got this idea, I gotta share it. So let's start live on Instagram. And I just click on there, and yes, you're driving, trying to pay attention, everything, nothing unsafe, but there's people here and talking to you, sending you messages and this and the other. Maybe I should do it not on the driver's side, more on the passenger side, right? But sometimes it's like, okay, I got this idea, let's do it. The other day I made an experiment, and I was falling asleep. I gotta go to San Antonio, and it was already like 2 a.m. And I gotta drive to San Antonio. I was like, what am I gonna do? Okay, let's start a live and see who's there. And there were people connected and sending you messages and, hey, I'm doing this and the other. What do you think? I was getting this idea. People start getting you their thoughts. And a lot of times in those kind of lives, you get a lot of feedback from even possible customers. People that is telling you, hey, why don't you do this? And we need this, we need the other.
Yeah.
So in the last months, we have opened like 4 or 5 different business units in our company. And sometimes it's just because what we hear from people.
Yeah, listen to that feedback is very important, like you said, and it's something that you probably would not have gotten if you weren't driving. Like you said, I know what you mean, exactly what you mean. When you're driving, your head is clear. At the same time, your ideas are just rushing to you. It's like, what do? You write it down, you dictate it. You know, in this case, you chose to go live with it, and that I thought was just awesome. You know, when I saw it, I was just like, wow. I was like, I need to do that more often. Typically, I listen to an Audible book when I'm driving over here or anywhere. But that was very unique. Like, talk to your audience, see what they say.
There's an interaction.
Yeah.
And so we started trying to help people from Latin America do business in the States. We believe that that's going to create jobs not only here but also there. And it would be better to have more like commerce or trade between Mexico and the US, because that can help many different things to create jobs in Mexico that can prevent people to decide to come to the United States, not in the best way. And at the same time, we can create opportunities for growth, education, etc. But also, I mean, Mexico and the US are next to each other. It's not like China.
Yeah, brother, sister.
So
exactly.
I think we should work more together, and there's huge opportunities, and it's especially because of the pandemic, we realized that China is so far away, and if you need something, it's gonna take 2 months. Mm-hmm. And if you need something, if you have a vendor from Mexico, it can come in a week, or days, or hours. So it's a huge difference, and not everything is price. Yeah, it could be less expensive in China than maybe Mexico, but still you can have your supply chain working.
I agree, and one of the things actually that you touched on right now that I was actually looking at I was creeping on your Instagram yesterday, right? Looking a little more about you, doing research for this, and during that you mentioned right now was that yeah, people focus on price sometimes. That you know, again, and I think it's part of that mentality of what worked for them before, and they're thinking that they want to be that. I always tell them that they want to be that Walmart, that Amazon with the lowest price, and you cannot go with that, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you touch on a lot, because I think it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, what is one of the most common mistakes that people do when they're trying to do business here? You know, is that one of them, or what other ones?
I mean, there's people who call me and say, "Hey, Edmundo, I want to make sales in the U.S." And I say, "What kind of product you have?" "Oh, I have this, and the other." And what make you think that? You're right. I mean, you are ready for the US. They are like, "Oh, I already checked, and we are less expensive than whatever you're paying there. No. So we can, and we have better quality." And I always tell them, "Okay, what's quality for you? Because what it's quality for you is not necessarily for the customers."
Correct.
So it's something it's not objective. It's not something that you can really measure. It's a matter of opinion, what I think about your product.
Yeah, exactly.
So this pen can be better than the other one based on whatever, but I mean it's very subjective. It's not really easy to say mine are better than the other. It all depends on your opinion, and the think on the price. And I realized that hitting the wall many times. I was getting something directly from a manufacturer. I went to the market cheaper than anybody else. That just lasts like a few days, because everybody's gonna react to your pricing if you're making enough noise, and then suddenly you are not the cheaper.
Yeah, someone else is gonna.
And then what are you gonna do? Go again down, and down and down, and nobody really end up winning, you know, in a war price, because yes, you might think that the customer is saving, but at the end, nobody really likes to sell that kind of product anymore. Nobody pays attention. Now you really don't have any quality because nobody's making money. So even the consumers end up losing.
Yes,
in those kind of situations. So I think it's better to keep the standards high and not to sell by price, but try to differentiate yourself and offer something different to the market.
I agree. I always tell clients of mine that come in, like, don't price yourself out of the game, which is basically what you just said, you know. Mm-hmm. And don't price yourself out of the game. Don't try to be Amazon. And the other thing that I like to mention to them is that just because someone else is doing it cheaper doesn't mean you need to do it cheaper. You know what I mean? And that's something that pretty much what you just said. So I love what you're saying, because that's super important to let people know that you don't have to be the cheapest.
Yep.
That's super important, I think. What other struggles do you see that are happening that business owners are trying to have when they're trying to break into the U.S. market?
Well, one of the things, as I said, is that a lot of times they are successful already in their own country. Mm-hmm. So when they come here, I think they feel like everybody's waiting on me just to come and they're going to give me orders.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to talk to a business owner that is making very good money in their country, and now you're telling them, hey, we're going to start from ground zero over here. It's like, I don't want to have that struggle again. I already suffered many years ago. Why should I suffer again?
Yeah.
But this is a new market. This is a new industry, so you have to start from zero.
Exactly. You're starting from
your
zero.
rent is worth nothing here, right? So, and I think that's hard to convince them on that.
Yeah, the saying of nobody likes their baby being called ugly.
Yeah.
As we say it here, and it's true. It's just like, yes, your success is awesome. Great, more power to you there. But here, you're starting from zero, and it's super important that people understand that pride gets in the way. Obviously, I mean, again, nobody likes their baby being called ugly, so that's what it is.
Yeah. And then there's another niche that we have found going out on the social media. At the beginning, you're kind of shy, it's difficult, but when you start hitting it, I started finding another huge market, which is the Hispanic people here in the States. A lot of times, we have very hardworking people that get successful in their own little business or out of employment, but they don't know how to grow because they don't have any education roots. Sometimes they didn't got any degree or anything like that, but they're making good money, I don't know, mowing grass or roofing or whatever, but they don't know how to go any further.
To the next step, it's hard to scale it.
Exactly. So I think there's a huge opportunity also to help these people to bring ideas to ground and make them clear, make them easy to understand. You cannot talk to them about a financial statement because they don't know anything about assets and liability and anything like that. But if you kind of put them on their own words, maybe they're going to understand. So I think there's a huge opportunity on that. And the third one, I think also the American companies are afraid of doing business with Latin America because they say, I don't speak Spanish, so how can I do something? And they just see it so exotic, and difficult to do. But actually, the market is also there. It's a big market. There are big countries like Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. You can also make some business there. So I think there's a lot of opportunities with the U.S. With Latin America.
I agree. I was looking at one of your posts yesterday. I remember when you said that. I was remembering that you pretty much were calling out Mexico and calling out in the sense of letting them know, like, hey, China does this and this isn't good, and these people do this is good. Why not us? Why not Mexico? Why can't we be the new China? Yeah. And obviously you said it more eloquently, but I like your sentiment because it's true. I mean, when you think of fast and what's the word I'm looking for, more affordable products, you think right away China. You're going to go China to manufacture, you're going to do here. But as you said earlier, 2 months, to wait for your product, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of time spent waiting on something to get here to see if your idea is going to work. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So touching on Mexico, that call out to Mexico is, why not us be the new China? I love that sentiment. Let's talk a little more about your personal brand experience. I know you have different businesses in different areas, consulting businesses and other industries. But when I spoke to you off camera, you were talking to me about your personal brand, the importance of it. And that's something that I love to hear about because I like to hear other people's opinion about personal brand. People think that branding is just for the company. And branding is not just for the company, especially in this new digital age. Branding is more important, I think, for personal branding, So what would you say to that? I mean, how has it helped you thrive in your business?
I think it's easier to connect with a personal branding than a company branding because a company, if you think about it, there's people behind, but it's a company, it's not a person. And I think you can connect easier with prospects or customers if you're a person. And I started a year and a half ago, with the pandemic, I should say. And it has helped me a lot to get in contact with people from all over the world. The other day, I was having a boot camp, training people on how to do business in the States or whatever. And I realized that one guy was always like very dark in a room and everything. I'm like, where are you? Where are you from? He says, I'm from Colombia. Okay, but it's not that late. I mean, why? Oh, I'm in Sweden. So it's like 3 a.m. here.
Wow.
So if I didn't do any personal branding, how can I connect with a Colombian living in Sweden?
Yeah.
So it's impossible. So getting in touch with people from everywhere also opens a lot of different opportunities. I regret of not starting earlier, because I have seen so many new things coming. We have open business units based on needs of customers that have approaches, and of course we have got more customers. And I think it's a less expensive way to do it as well than having billboards or TV ads or something.
Yeah, I agree. I've always mentioned that it's just easier to humanize yourself than a company.
Yes.
And in this case, you're not, like you said, you're not talking to a company, you're talking to a person, and that person is more one-on-one. That human-to-human experience that people want. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What other type of advice would you give to anyone that's wanting to do business here in the U.S.? I mean, you mentioned already other things like get informed and stuff. But what other type of advice would you advise for anyone doing business?
I think it's very important to have a partner, an ally, somebody that can guide you here. And saying this, I'm not trying to say, come to me or whatever. No, because there's many different people that can help you in different things. But I think it's better not to try to do it by yourself.
I agree.
Because if you find somebody that you can trust in the States, it's going to help you with several things that maybe from south of the border is going to be hard to do. So I think it's better to work with somebody, not to try to eat the whole cake by yourself, because you're not going to eat it.
Yeah, you can.
So if you can share a little bit, I think you're going to end up growing faster.
I agree, and that's a good piece of advice because I found out I've been a self-entrepreneur for at least almost 20 years. It's like 17 years, and I've noticed that always that you cannot do it alone. So yeah, you were saying about not doing it alone, and I think that's an awesome piece of advice because a lot of people try to do too much themselves, and like you said, it's very hard finding that partner or associate or even that mentor to help you get to those next steps and it's very important that people understand that you cannot do it alone, that it's okay to ask for help, and it's recommended, right? I was mentioning that, I've been an entrepreneur and I've seen it that, that one person can't do it all. You need to share that workload because the way I started seeing it was you start focusing on your strengths and then you have a partner or an associate or a team behind you that has their strengths, and that just makes it even better,
I think part of the problem is that we don't want to pay for advice. He's like, oh no, I cannot pay $200 to that lawyer. Okay, what if that lawyer saves you a big problem of thousands of dollars? So actually you save money and you save a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I think we gotta find mentors in different areas, different subjects, and try to learn about it and get in business.
I agree. I mean, one of the ones that a lot of entrepreneurs overlook, including myself starting out, is that how to read a financial statement. That is something that people just think I have a good product, I have a good service. This is my margin. This is my cost. This is my sell. My margin is good, and it's way beyond that. And the financial sheet is super important. And me later on, I found out later on that that's something that I overlooked, and I learned the hard way. Now, thankfully, I've learned more about it, educated myself about it. But that's something that I think entrepreneurs always forget. It's just the accounting part, the financial aspect of it. It's not just what you like to do. There are things that need to get done so the business can keep going. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So kind of wrapping up already, some more Thrive advice for our audience out there. What would you want to share to anybody, again, wanting to do business in the U.S.?
Because there's a lot of opportunities. The country being so big makes big companies to concentrate global, right, in the whole country. But there's small people like us that can look at small niches that nobody's really taking care. And if you find 2 or 3 niches, that can change your life. Because we're not an international company, we're not a super huge company, but hey, 2 or 3 good customers can really make us a lot of money. So I think the US has a lot of little opportunities that nobody is really taking care of. sometimes companies do not even discover them because it could be expensive for them to make that kind of research, or they just don't care because everything is a financial statement that says how much money we need per customer or whatever. And if it's something below, we don't want these customers, get out of here, whatever. But what for some big cost or companies, it's small companies. For us, it could be big companies.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities like that, and there's a lot of opportunities for growth.
That's awesome. Well, Edmundo, thank you so much for your time. Again, I know you got to get going. Laredo is not the only place you're in. You're in different places on your way to Houston, correct?
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, again, thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.